Hello, everyone. I am Diego Area, Deputy Director of the Latin America Center of the Atlantic Council. I am honored to welcome Minister Alberto van Klaveren to the Atlantic Council today. As a lawyer, diplomat, and academic, he brings a great breadth of knowledge, offering insights on Chile's relation with the US and the European Union, as well as its participation in multilateral convenings. Minister van Klaveren has been a distinguished professor throughout his career, teaching international studies in Chile, Spain, and Germany, and recently serving on the US-Chile Fulbright Commission. Further deepening his commitment to Chilean-EU relations, he served as Chile's ambassador to the European Union from 2001 to 2009. Now, in his new role as Chile's Minister of Foreign Affairs, he participates in the latest edition of our Experts of the Americas series. Please join me in watching this in-depth conversation with the Minister. Minister, I am thrilled to have you here today. It is always kind of awkward to speak in English with a Spanish speaker counterpart, so I'm going to break the protocol a little bit. Quisiera agradecerle a usted y a su gobierno, del gobierno del presidente Boric, por su compromiso incansable, serio, constante con la defensa de los derechos humanos en un momento de tan profunda disrupción global, tener luz donde la sombra quiere apoderarse, habla y reivindica las voces de aquellas víctimas. So thank you very much for your commitment with human rights. Now, going to my first question for you. Earlier this year, the US celebrates 200 years of bilateral relations with Chile and also 20 years of the free trade agreement between the two countries. So we'd love your thoughts on what have been the benefits of the bilateral relations and how do you see the future of the relationship?
Well, thank you very much, Diego, for your very kind presentation. Really, it's a pleasure to be here with you and also to be the guest of the Atlantic Council. And I celebrate also that the Atlantic Council is more and more interested in relations with Latin America and the Caribbean because I am aware that the Atlantic Council is an institution with a global perspective. And I think we have also there is need to place Latin America in that more global perspective. Thank you for your comment, with respect of our commitment to human rights. I must say that the commitment of Chile to human rights and democracy is part of our tradition since we recovered democracy. We know what dictatorships are. Many of us have suffered the effects of dictatorships, and really we want really to contribute to the growth of democracy and to defend human rights all over the world and especially in Latin America. That is part of our tradition, it's part of our foreign policy, and it's also part of the personal convictions of President Gabriel Boric. Gabriel Boric has been very concerned about the situation in Nicaragua. He has expressed his commitment to democracy in Nicaragua, and that's part of a more general conviction he has developed along the years. Now, going to our specific subject, which has to do with the relations between Chile and the United States, I think that our bilateral relations are really a model of a mature relationship. We have had our differences and we have had several episodes, historically speaking, in our relation with the United States. But despite those differences many years ago, we have been able to build a very solid and a very stable relationship. And we have the instruments to facilitate that relationship. There is the free trade agreement, which we negotiated and signed 20 years ago. There is also a very intense political dialogue, and also there are relations from people to people at the level of civil society, at the level of academics who are concerned with bilateral relations or which deal with bilateral relations. And we also have a very robust trade and investment relations. American investments are most welcome in Chile. There is already the presence of many companies which are operating in Chile. And in terms of trade, we have had a constant trade between both countries.
That's important. It is very well connected with the shared values conversation we were having at the beginning of the conversation. That, of course, helps promote a more fluid relationship between the two countries. Not only the common interest in the economic side, but also sharing values and respecting those values that of course, promotes and increases the engagement between the two countries. And talking about how are we leveraging resources to promote prosperity, I want to shift to Chile's most important commodity in the global market and arguably critical for the green energy transition. I'm speaking, of course, about lithium and copper. How is your government leveraging its vast reserves of both minerals to promote prosperity, to promote foreign investment in the country?
Well, Chile is a very open economy. Chile is a middle-sized country within Latin America, and we depend very much on foreign trade. And an important part of our trade with the rest of the world consists of minerals. And some of them, most of them, I would say, are critical minerals because both copper and lithium have been defined as critical minerals according to several classifications. Anyway, the new product in that area is precisely lithium, and the Chilean government announced in April a new strategy, a new national strategy for the exploitation of lithium. That strategy is not at all a strategy of nationalization because lithium has always been a resource of the state, and it aims to develop the exploitation of salt flats in the Atacama Desert through a combination of public and private sectors. Since lithium is property of the state is associating itself with different companies, or will associate itself with different companies for the exploitation of lithium. We hope that many companies will participate in the bidding process in the coming months and years, and we hope to have a diverse combination of companies in the area. What we are requiring of the companies is that they comply with environmental standards, because obviously there is an impact for the exploitation of lithium, and we have to deal with that. And we also are requiring that companies who want to invest in the sector establish also a dialogue and assume the responsibility with respect of the local communities which are close to the fields in which lithium will be exploited. So what we are requiring is compliance with high standards in terms of environment and in terms of also relations with local communities and labor conditions in that area. There is also the proposal to establish a national company for the exploitation of lithium, but the idea is that this company does not hold a monopoly, but that it can compete on an equal playing field with other private companies, which there are two operating in the area, and the newcomers in the future.
Thank you very much, Minister. Now, I would like to ask you a bonus, the final question. We have discussed some of the opportunities that the bilateral relationship bring, opportunities for Chile, looking at the future. But now I want you to also share with us about some of the challenges that Chile is facing, specifically regarding security. And we were having a private conversation before and discussing the impact of a massive migration from Venezuela and other countries of the hemisphere. So how are you seeing those challenges playing a role in the domestic politics in Chile, and how can the US and Chile collaborate to mitigate some of the impacts of massive flows of migrants?
Well, yes, there is a massive influx of migrants in Chile during the last years, and we are trying to cope with that. It's a difficult issue, as it is in many other countries. Uh, Chile has had a tradition of openness towards migrants from many areas of the world, even from neighboring countries. But right now, this influx has been so massive that it has created tensions in our society. We are trying to deal with those tensions, and we are aiming at developing regular migration, orderly migration, and safe migration also for the migrants. Because one of the problems of migration, especially of irregular migration, is that some some uh, some influxes are also linked to transnational groups, transnational gangs who abuse the migrants, and really which create a situation of criminality, which also can lead to xenophobia in our society, and we're trying to avoid that and to cope with that. So it's a problem which we are sharing with many other countries in South America, and which is not unfamiliar to the United States and other countries in the world.
Minister van Klaveren, it has been a pleasure sharing this space with you. Thank you for taking the time to give us your thoughts on bilateral relations and the importance of hemispheric cooperation. Thank you to our audience as well for joining our Experts of the Americas series.